14,000 children have been killed in Gaza since Israel began its assault on the enclave in October. But a further 12,000 have been injured in a region where Israel's war has made hospital care patchy and where urgent medical supplies have been frequently blocked from entering the territory. One of those children is Ahed Say-So. Video of her urgent treatment after a bomb blast went viral in December. Sky News has now investigated what became of the young girl who endured this.
My name is Ahed Say-So, and her uncle amputated her leg without anesthesia.
My uncle put me in the table. I looked around. There was no surgical equipment. He got the washer and the cleaning tools from the kitchen and started to clean my leg. I looked at him and said, "Don't cut my leg off." He started to cry. Then he cut my leg off.
It was lunchtime on Tuesday, December the 19th. An Israeli tank shell hit the family house. It is a wonder Ahed survived. She did so only because her uncle did the unimaginable. An amputation in a war zone with a kitchen knife.
The strength came from within, because I never want to give my occupier the opportunity to kill us all and silence us.
His decision to film it, to make one moment of horror go viral, would precipitate a journey from Gaza to Egypt and then to America.
Ahed's journey to the US was made possible by a chain of volunteers. It begins with Tarek Hailet, an American medical student who heads up the treatment abroad program of the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund. He works with other organizations to get injured children out of Gaza and to the United States for medical treatment. It's a difficult process. Ahed had to be moved south through Gaza to the Egyptian border by volunteers, all during a war. Visas had to be secured, but were often denied. But Tarek eventually succeeded in getting Ahed out of Gaza, with further volunteers accompanying her on the long journey to Denver, Colorado. And here's what happened next.
So good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're here.
Dr. Omar Mubarak is a vascular surgeon who can make things happen. And beyond the welcome, he has arranged for Ahed a new leg.
Excited?
Happy, but I forget my shoes. The right shoes.
You forgot the right shoe.
I'm so happy for her right now. So happy to be able to supply this for her.
You're what's brought them to Denver.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, good for you. We'll leave you to it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The fitting was a private moment for her. But then a moment we'll all remember. From that day in December, the amputation, a viral video, strangers have brought Ahed a long way.
So happy for you. I don't know how you can see what's going on and not say to yourself, we've got to help these people. It's very painful. I don't think there's a single Arab I know who isn't seriously disturbed by what's going on.
Extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. And I think that gentleman there, Mr. Omar Mubarak, we need more people like that in the world and fewer people like Bibi Netanyahu. We'd be going in a positive direction as a species when that happens. And the sad thing is, I think lots of, or people who I thought were good people, are not only not doing things to help, but they're actually giving tacit consent to what we're seeing in Gaza. And that includes most of our political class. And it really is quite astonishing. You have a person there whose job is medicine, to give life, to save life, to heal, to mend, to return to good health. It shouldn't just be left to him, though. The politician should be creating the space, the possibilities, the parameters for people like this, Ahed, to get better, to be healed, and it's not happening. We've had politicians, allegedly progressive politicians in this country, abstaining on a ceasefire. Abstaining on a ceasefire in a conflict where you have tanks launching shells into civilian homes and a young woman loses a leg and it has to be amputated by her relative. And we have politicians in this country who have abstained on that. Initially, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party was saying that Israel has every right to respond in any way it sees fit. Just extraordinary. Ahed will remain in the US for the foreseeable future, but it's a country that understandably fills her with conflict.
When you see people happy to see you or trying their best to support you, you feel that there is someone still care. It is something I will never forget. But the first thing I thought about was how I could leave Gaza and seek treatment in a country that is possibly even more than Israel, largely responsible for my condition. If anyone asked me about it, I would say America kills a person and then attend their funeral.
Really powerful words. And I just keep on thinking about that doctor, Mike. You know, he's performed something extraordinary there. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't see it like that. It's just his job. It's his calling. We're dealing with such awful human beings, though. I can almost see lobbyists, interest groups calling the guy an anti-Semite, calling him an extremist, a fundamentalist, where he's just trying to help people walk, right? And the words there of Ahed, I think, were so powerful in terms of the role of the United States in all of this. In decades past, there have been conflicts overseas. You've had people like this benefit from US healthcare, US medical knowledge, and often it's been promoted as a kind of feel-good story, right? You had this with Iraqis, for instance, from the Second Gulf War. They would go to the US, they would be helped in some way. Invariably, it was young people or children. And this was often sold to the US audience as a kind of feel-good story. Look, we're the good guys. And I think things are so bad with regards to the US's role in this story, this genocide, that actually that's impossible. What's your view on that?
Absolutely. I think what we've seen there is a reminder of the brutality of Israel's assaults, right? I read somewhere this morning, actually, Save the Children reported that more than 10 children on average have lost one or both of their legs in Gaza since the October 7th, right? This is horrific, right? And I think the US are complicit in this. Let's be absolutely frank about this. Biden has, not used strong enough language at times, and the US is still arming and funding Israel. So Biden this morning, actually, I think he said something he spoke to Time magazine, and he spoke about how we might have suspicion or we might have reason to believe that Israel are prolonging this for their own political preservation. People have been saying this for months, right? So why has the US been funding Israel for this period of time? It's been quite clear to loads of people what's going on, what's happening. This is an assault, a genocide on civilians, and yet the US has done nothing about this. I think the US's role in this should be made clear, as should the UK's role in this, by the way. And I think our political class, including the Labour Party, should be the party of justice. They are also, in some ways, complicit in this as well. So I think our political class have no ideas in terms of progressive thinking on this issue. And it left us in a position now where, we have these heroic stories of resistance and making do in Gaza, but it's not enough. There should be infrastructure for these people. There should be more support for these people. And our political class are kind of sitting on their hands, starting from the position of Israel's right to defend itself, and Israel is acting in good faith. And that still seems to be some of the thinking inside the political class. So it's a real shame. And I think, this next government or this next kind of parliament we're going to see is going to be full of people who are very, very pro-Israel, who have the instincts of Israel has right to defend itself, who has this instinctive belief that any condemnation of Israel is anti-Semitic. And if that's a starting place, we're not going to make any progress on this issue at all when it comes to putting pressure on Israel and trying to, in some ways, affect or stop or halt its assault on Gaza. So this is a desperately sad story, a story of both resistance, but also a failure of politicians around the world to stop Israel and hold it to account.
The US could stop this war tomorrow. It could have stopped it 3 months ago, 5 months ago. It's been giving so much aid to Israel. I think there's that $14 billion package. Israel gets everything from the United States. Everything, civilian technologies, F-35s, you name it, everything. Intelligence. This could have ended a very long time ago. Of course, there was direct action recently against a Leonardo factory here in the UK. I think it was in Edinburgh. And in that factory, they create the sites for the F-35s that go to Israel. If states won't act, that's precisely the kind of thing you have to do. And you mentioned there a moment ago, Mike, about the kinds of parliamentarians we'll be looking at in the next parliament. 73 Labour MPs today are Labour Friends of Israel. I'm really curious as to how many Labour MPs after July the 4th will be quote-unquote Labour Friends of Israel. I think it'll be substantially higher. One of them, of course, is Luke Akehurst, who's a lobbyist for Israeli interests. We have a great piece on our website, novara.com, written by Stephen Methan, about him, his politics. He's called Palestinian children since October the 7th who've been maimed and mauled. He's basically insinuated that they're crisis actors. He's bought into the Pallywood meme, myth, lie. He has called the UN anti-Semitic, and he's called Human Rights Watch liars. That's somebody who will be a parliamentarian. And finally, we have had, since the Faiza Shaheen story in recent days, the last week, this idea that saying there is an Israeli lobby, saying that it exists is anti-Semitic. It's just complete nonsense. Next week, I'll be interviewing Ilan Pappé. He's written a great new book about the history of the Israeli lobby in the US and UK. It's just outlandish to say it doesn't exist. And it's certainly not racist to say that there is an Israeli lobby. There is. It's very well equipped, very well resourced. It has a long and storied history of success.